What's going on, 5th grade? It's your teacher, Mr. Dooley. Welcome. We are on week 3, the unit 3 of our reading chapter books, and we are looking at research and inquiry. The story for this week is the Island of the Blue Dolphins, but we're going to be focusing on what the research and inquiry part of the text wants us to look at in order to make you guys better researchers and better go-getters when it comes to finding content and knowledge. So, let's get started. So the question of the week is, how do people survive in the wilderness? When you read Island of the Blue Dolphins, you'll see that it's pretty much a girl on an island that has to use her resources around her in order to survive. And so that's our question. How do people survive in the wilderness? Now, I've got some pictures here, but I want to go into what wilderness is just besides the pictures. What is wilderness? Let's take a look. Wilderness is an area in its natural state in which few or no people live. There are several examples. We call these biomes. You have got the Antarctic, rainforest, desert. More kind of local, you've got deciduous forests, so kind of forests that are more less wet, more dry climate. There are all kinds of different biomes in different parts of the wilderness that we could be talking about. Where the Island of the Blue Dolphins takes place, it's more on a beach, tropical. So that's a biome. So there are different kinds of wilderness that when it comes to what is out there in nature, because you know different parts of the world are different. Cold, hot, warm, wet, all those kinds of things. So that's our new world, is the wilderness. So your project is very similar to how the previous research and inquiry projects are going to be. You're going to make a multimedia presentation, but here is your task. You're going to research the tips and tactics, and I want to look at the word tactics. Tactics is almost like your plan, what you're going to do. And a lot of times when you're talking about someone's tactics, it's their go-to action. My tactics, when it comes to teaching, I think about being clear, repeating myself, using gestures so I'm not standing up here like a robot, things like that. Tactics are your kind of go-to tools and skills that you implement into something. So with that, how can you tell me about the tactics you would need to survive in the wilderness? So one more time, your project is going to be to research tips and tactics that can be used to survive in the wilderness. And again, just like last time, you can present these in a manner of ways. We've got Flipgrid, Nearpod, YouTube, Google Slides, and then other approved platforms. I use Google Slides to make all of these, so that's fine. PowerPoint is also fine. When it comes to the due date, which is going to be at the very end of this week's unit, you are going to submit it by attaching it in Schoology. And again, you should have done that at least by now, at least twice, but I'm still going to go over how to do that once that time gets closer. So, here is step 1. This step 1 has been very similar throughout our other teachers' units for research and inquiry. You are going to ask an open-ended question relating to surviving in the wild. This question is going to guide your research. For example, again, this is mine. So when I ask you to submit these, that submission date will be today. Or sorry, not today, but the day that you see the video go up. My example, I do not want to see on yours, but I'm going to give you one anyway. What do I need to do first when I set foot in the wilderness? So my question has to do with, what's the step 1 of surviving? Because I thought, well, you got to start somewhere. What would you do first? You got to think of those questions though. You're thinking, Mr. Dooley, if you have a question like this, how am I going to think of one? Well, we're going to make a web. And I'm not going to make a web relating to this question because, again, that just allows you guys to copy what I'm doing. I don't want that. I want you guys to use your own thoughts. So if you're going to make a web, you might be thinking, well, what is a web? You can do this along with me, or you can actually do this by yourselves to help think of this open-ended question. A web, for me, always starts with a circle. And what goes in that circle is the topic that I'm trying to, discuss, break apart. So I've been watching a lot of baseball lately. I think I'll do that. So if I were doing a web on baseball, and I might be thinking of these open-ended questions, it would start like this. You have your central topic of baseball. So yours would be, of course, wilderness. Don't do baseball, wilderness. You branch out in several directions, and you might have some questions. One question is, for me right now when I'm watching it, how is baseball different now that COVID-19 is here? So I might just write COVID-19 question mark. And again, you might be thinking, well, if I read that, I'm not going to know what I meant. But it's your web. So you can shorten the words as short as you need to be. Also, new players. So the reason this is one of my topics is because every year, even though COVID is going on, there are a ton of new players added. So that's another question. What are the new players? And also to kind of go with that, how is that affected by COVID-19? So I might put COVID-19 here. Again, question mark, because again, little things that relate to it. And when you're done, I'm going to do one more. Let's see. My favorite team, the Braves. And from there, I might ask, again, how are they being affected by COVID-19? So all of this is a web. And again, you're not doing baseball. This is just me showing you how to do a web. If you were doing wilderness, you might start, of course, with, and I'm not going to go very far on this because I don't want you to copy me, but wilderness. And I also want to write below it, survival. So wilderness, survival. Now, I'm going to make a text-to-world connection that might hit for some of you or just kind of might go over your heads. You know the game Minecraft, because I've heard so many people talk about it. That is a game where you're surviving the wilderness. I don't want you to talk about Minecraft, but I do want you to kind of keep that idea. What do? Do you find shelter? Do you try to hunt animals for food? Because that similar thing is in our question this week. What do you do to survive in the wilderness? So you might go over here and have one open-ended question, another open-ended question, another, until you have about 4 to choose from. And if you have 4 to choose from, you pick the very best one. You can give me more than one, but really you're going to only stick to one when you're doing this research. So, to conclude, on Google Forms you're going to see an area where you just have to write your name and your open-ended question. The web is not a part of the assignment. The web is to help you figure out these open-ended questions. So, if I'm talking about wilderness and survival, I might ask myself, I'm not going to write this down, but I might ask myself, what's the most essential item that I need? Is it water? Is it food? Is it shelter? What thing is that? And there might be, do my survival tactics need to change based on where I am? Like if I'm in the Arctic, am I going to have to survive the same way there as I am in the desert? Those are the kind of questions that I'm looking for. So this concludes day 1 of Research and Inquiry. Hope you guys are having a great day out there, and I will see you in the next video.